All right, so a few logistics before we get started. Due to the high attendance, everyone will remain muted for the duration of the webinar. Please enter your questions in the Q&A box. We do have planned time at the end of the webinar to answer any questions that you may have. Just a little bit about myself. As mentioned, my name is Emma. I'm an instructional designer and instructor for ANAB. I have designed and delivered training courses on a number of conformity assessment topics, primarily to the forensic community since 2013, but I have branched out a little bit into other areas for curriculum development and instruction, such as greenhouse gas verification and validation and general analytical method validation verification, as well as measurement uncertainty. Prior to joining ANAB, I spent more than 11 years as a quality assurance manager in a forensic laboratory, and my portfolio includes at least 12 years of conducting research in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industries, as well as teaching biology as an adjunct professor at a couple of local universities. So the webinar objectives for today are to provide you information so you can learn a bit about individual and organizational resilience, as well as acquire information regarding the elements of resilience and how these elements manifest as personal qualities of resilient people. Additionally, I'll present several accreditation requirements from ISO IEC 17025 to demonstrate how accreditation and implementation of these requirements can provide a foundation upon which organizations can build and foster resilience. And finally, in the end, hopefully, you'll see how resilience helps maintain competence and promotes the confidence in a management system. So accreditation, building and fostering resilience. Change and challenges in everyday life, personal or professional, is nothing new for us. However, during the last 2 years, the changes we have had to make and the challenges we faced have really been accelerated and unprecedented. So what is it that has allowed us to take on these challenges and to adapt so quickly to implement the changes needed to survive and thrive? It is our resilience. Resilience, the new favorite word of the past few years, is defined by the Oxford Dictionary as the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties. It's our toughness. It is the ability to adapt in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. Basically, the ability to bounce back after something negative, tragic, or bad happens. Resilience is a process of successfully adapting to difficult or challenging life experiences through mental, emotional, and behavioral flexibility and adjustments. And it really does provide the strength and support needed to process and overcome such hardships. Resilience does apply to us as individuals, as well as to our communities and organizations. Resilience is multidimensional. It is associated with the individual, with our relationships, with our community, with our culture, with environmental factors, and the accumulation of all of our experiences. Resilience is composed of our behaviors, our thoughts, our actions that we learn and develop over time. Resilience is also fluid and dynamic. That is, it does change. Our level of resilience, depending on the situation, could change over time. So resilience really does encompass one's ethos, logos, and pathos. That is, our ethics, our logic, and our feelings. It is about our character or our ethos, the ethics, the morals, the values that we embrace and share. It's our integrity. Resilience can be developed through one's competence and confidence, or our logos. Logos refers to our training, education, and experiences. Which all go to shape our behaviors, our actions, our thoughts, our self-esteem. And as such, also shapes our resilience. Our pathos are our feelings of purpose, how we contribute, how we make a difference, our feelings of belonging, connection to others and our world, and our feelings of being part of a community, as well as our emotional intelligence or emotional control. That's all part of our resilience. So let's take a look at these elements of resilience in a little more detail. Although we are born with natural resilience, the majority of our personal resilience is learned and developed over time, starting from a very young age. This is called adaptive resilience or trial by fire. This happens when something challenging or traumatic happens and when we learn from that experience. We can also learn to be resilient and develop both intellectual abilities and social attributes of resilience. Some of the elements of personal resilience are listed here. We learn from an early age right from wrong and begin to build our personal character or attributes, our morals, our values, our integrity. We also build our relationships with our family, our friends, our community, and we know when needed, we can count on them for support. Having supportive family, friends, and coworkers and developing those personal connections is so important. This is where we find our safe space and our sense of purpose, worth, and our value within these connections. Feeling like we belong, like we are part of the community, part of the team. We develop our competencies, determine our strengths, our weaknesses, our abilities through our education, through our training, through acquiring knowledge. This helps to build and establish our self-esteem, which enables us to really feel good about ourselves and to connect and to have that contribution to our community. These competencies establish our confidence. We must also be honest about our weaknesses and feel comfortable in saying, hey, I don't know, and being able to show humility. Key to personal resilience is also being aware of and in control of our emotional behavior. I'm sure all of you have heard that other key word of the last few years, our emotional intelligence. It's okay to show emotion. It's okay to feel. It's okay to feel sad, stressed, angry, or mad. However, we must develop the skills that will allow us to appropriately deal with these feelings and express these feelings and emotions. That is, we need to learn coping skills. The same is true for what I call situational control. Resilient people really do understand the situation. They know the boundaries of their control. That is, they know the level of decisions or the decision making that they have at their capacity. They use problem solving. They're realistic about planning. They're quickly to adapt. They're flexible in that situation, and they're aware of their limits of control. That is, they're aware of the decisions they can make. They also know when they need to ask for help or guidance, and they know when to let go of things. Lastly, resilient people do self-care and know how important it is to maintain their mental and physical well-being. Sleep, being well nourished, getting outside, and enjoying life. We must have that balance. Resilient people still experience setbacks, stress, difficult situations, but they really are better able to cope with these situations and overcome the challenges. They have developed resilient skills and abilities. Listed here are some qualities of resilient people. So individuals that have developed resilient skills and abilities express qualities of resilient people. Some of these qualities including viewing or seeing change or challenges as opportunities. They have a strong commitment to their goals and they put strategies in place to meet those goals. They're action oriented and they're good problem solvers, but also recognize their limits of control and are realistic about what they can control. They let things go. That is, they let go of those things that they cannot change. They engage and they support others when needed, and they are not afraid to ask for help or to say, I don't know. And they don't get into the blame game. That is, they don't blame themselves, they don't blame others when things don't go as expected. Resilient people are more empathetic. They express an understanding of the situation, they are in the moment, they're engaged, and they think more positively. These are our optimists, and as such, are often more tolerant of negative effects. Often we think of resilience as a personal trait, and it certainly is. But resilience can also be a trait of a group, of a community, of a culture, even an organization or a business. This is called community resilience. Community resilience is defined as the capacity of the group or community, that is the organization, to deal with changes and challenges and to continue to develop and grow and bounce back and thrive. Individual or personal resilience contributes to this community. This is what we bring with us when we join an organization, when we go to work every day. We bring our own resilience. And just like personal resilience, this community resilience is developed over time. We know we need to build resilience in our organizations, within our community. It's this resilience that provides us with what we need to bounce back and grow as a community in the face of adversity. But we have to think about, how do we build and foster this organizational resilience? We know what we bring to the organization, but how do we collectively bring the organization together to build this resilience? One way of doing this is through accreditation, because it kind of sets the foundation or the standard upon which to build and foster that resilience. So accreditation does provide the opportunity for an organization to build a quality management system culture, which then provides the foundation that can help build and foster organizational resilience. In many accreditation requirement documents, you'll find requirements that speak to the organization's character or the ethos. As mentioned, the ethos is the ethics, the values, the integrity of the organization. There are also requirements for developing personnel competencies and building confidence or the logos of the organization. This is the knowledge, the skills, the education, the training, the abilities that are acquired through that training and education. Additionally, there are requirements that address the pathos of the organization or the feelings of the organization. This is through our connections and through our contributions and knowing our emotional and our situational control. So we're going to review a few requirements from ISO IEC 17025 to see how accreditation can build and foster resilience, how it can help maintain quality and technical competence, and how it can promote overall confidence in the laboratory, even during the most challenging of times. It would be too exhaustive to review requirements from multiple standard documents, thus I'll only be reviewing requirements from 17025. Although the requirements that we review are from 17025, keep in mind that many other requirement documents have very similar types of requirements. So we're going to start with character, or the ethos of the organization. The organizational character, or the integrity, the ethics, the values of the organization really should be established. And ISO 17025 and 8.2.1 gives us some direction on how to start with establishing the ethos of the organization. It states that the management must establish, document, and maintain policies and objectives for the fulfillment of the requirements, and that the policies and objectives shall address the competence, impartiality, and consistent operation of the laboratory. Keeping in mind that impartiality is being fair, being objective, being without bias, being able to identify and evaluate those conflicts of interest. And so that gives us a thread to establishing some of the ethos or the values for that organization. We need to ensure we are impartial. Additionally, 4.1 speaks to impartiality in that the laboratory activities shall be undertaken with impartiality, shall be committed to impartiality, responsible for impartiality, and then monitor impartiality. So not only do we need to consider impartiality with our operations, we have all these things that we have to do to monitor and be committed to that impartiality to ensure that our work is done fairly and objectively without that bias. In addition, any organization's mission that they set forward and their vision that they set forward as well usually compasses the ethos of that organization and defines and describes why we are here and gives purpose for what that organization is doing. So every organization should establish their organizational integrity, their ethics, through some kind of code of conduct, code of ethics, whatever you want to call it, principles of professional practice. And then employees have the choice to, well, they don't have the choice. The employees should embrace those ethics or that code of conduct or that code of ethics that is established and set forward for that organization. The decisions that employees make, the choices that they make are typically based on that organizational value that's set forth, on those values, on those ethics that are implemented and enforced. Additionally, how the organization ensures impartiality or objectivity is included in that statement of code of conduct or that code of ethics. So we need to think about really what are the values, what are the principles of professional practice that are acceptable for us? What are our professional practices in our organization? How do we expect employees to behave? How do we expect the business to conduct itself? And how is that set forward and maintained and implemented for everyone in the organization? Where do we set our integrity? So establishing that code of conduct or the principles of professional practice really does establish the bar for what we expect regarding the professional conduct and behavior of the employees. Now let's look at competence and confidence. This speaks to the logos of the organization. The logos is the logic, it's the knowledge, the intellect, the skills, the competence, and the productivity of the organization. Competence is a central theme in many requirement documents. A few of them are listed here. Section 1 of these documents, which is the scope of the document, states that this document specifies the general requirements for the competence, consistent operation, and impartiality of the organization. So it's that strong theme that comes in straight away in the very first section of these 17,000 series of documents that stresses that we are putting this document into place. We're implementing this document to put forward the competence of this organization. And we want to ensure that we have requirements and we're meeting those requirements for that competence. There are additional requirements that are spread throughout the 17025 document, especially in section 6, which is all about personnel competency, that goes to establish the competence of the organization. So competence and confidence is stressed in 6.2 when it talks about all personnel shall act impartially and be competent and work in according to the management system. 6.2.2 and 2.3 go on to say we need to document the competence requirements and then ensure people are competent to perform the activities. So it goes to support that we're getting the competence embedded in our organization and providing opportunities for individuals to get to the competence that we require. There are additional competence requirements in 6.2.3, 6.2.5, and 772 that goes on to further state that we need to have procedures for how we're going to train and then monitor competence, and how we're going to additionally ensure that individuals meet the competence requirements that we expect of them. Through these competence requirements, individuals are hired, they're trained to ensure that they have the education, the knowledge, the skills, the abilities needed to perform the lab activities, and to ensure that there is confidence in that work product. Additionally, we need to remember to provide feedback regarding competence monitoring activities to build and maintain the confidence of personnel in the laboratory. There are additional requirements spread throughout 17025, primarily in sections 6 and 7 that speak to the confidence in the work product. So we have to think about all those QA, QC requirements that we have in place that are conducted that go to tell us that everything is working as expected. A few of the requirements from section 6 are listed here. This is to demonstrate that we monitor all aspects of our processes to ensure the equipment, the products, the services that we are using meet our specified requirements and that they're suitable. This gives us confidence in our processes that they are working as expected. Additional confidence requirements, as mentioned, are in section 7. Some of those requirements are listed here. I'm not going to go through all these requirements, but please note that all these requirements listed do contain elements to help ensure that items are handled and evaluated appropriately, that there are sufficient records to support the work conducted, and to ensure the results are accurate and reliable. All of this provides confidence that the final work product meets our management system requirements and meets our customers' requirements. So let's talk a little bit about connections and developing these relationships, because connections is all about that. Connections relate not only to the feelings of the organization, but also the ethos and the logos of the organization. We need strong connections or relationships with our customers, our vendors, our colleagues, our partners, our stakeholders, and then developing these relationships and providing that open communication culture so individuals have a safe environment for sharing. This safe environment, having individuals feel that open communication will engender feelings of belonging and a shared purpose. So individuals will feel like they're part of the team, striving for goals together. So that will help foster understanding, build trust and empathy. Building strong connections also provides for the exchange of information. This leads to additional logos or exchange of knowledge, exchange of information, which could go, to that mentoring, to the training, to the learning of the organization. Individuals should feel safe about asking questions, asking for help. These strong connections that we put in place will help with that mentoring, with that training, with that learning, will help facilitate that professional development and really help to expand the competence. Connections also help with the ethos of the organization or the ethics. These strong connections will help keep everyone in check. So having strong connections does build that open communication culture, and individuals will feel safe to discuss or bring forward issues or problems or speak up to hold individuals accountable. This really does help reinforce the values or the integrity of the organization and goes back to the character of the organization. So these requirements for connection are spread throughout many standards. We're going to take a look at a few that are in 17025. So most standard documents do have requirements that ask organizations to define their structure, the relationships, and specify that responsibility, the roles, the duties, and the authority of individuals within the organization. This is usually defined in an org chart together with our job descriptions or position descriptions, whatever they happen to be called. And having that org chart, knowing our job role, knowing our responsibilities, knowing what our level of authority is, really does help us all know our place in the organization. We can go to that org chart, we can see where we are, we know that our supervisor is higher up in the org chart, we know where our colleagues are, we know how all of these entities are interrelated. Our position description then gives us additional information on our relationship, what our role is, what our responsibilities are, and shows those connections as well. It also gives us information about our purpose and how we contribute to the organization. There are requirements that require us to talk about the management system and its effectiveness. That is, what's working, what's not working. These requirements help to establish that we were all in this together, and it's okay to talk about issues or problems or mistakes or errors or those nonconformities. We need to talk about these things. So we need to have those connections. We need to feel safe to be able to bring this information up, and we're all in it together. It's all for continued improvement of that management system. We must also be able to talk about customer requirements and communicate our requirements to our external vendors. All of these requirements go to building those connections and putting that network of support in place. There are many requirements regarding customers that go to developing the connections with our customers. We must inform our customers, notify our customers, advise our customers, gain customer approval, get customers' feedback. Again, all of these requirements help to establish and build those customer connections, which are so important for us as we take that information from our customers to meet their requirements as well as to improve our management system. The bottom line is we need connections. We need our customers' connections. We need connections with our colleagues, with our vendors, with our stakeholders. These connections really are the glue that holds it all together. Leadership is the driver behind building a culture of connection and personal relationships. Leaders should motivate individuals to feel passionate about their work and positive about their contributions, give individuals purpose. Leaders also help facilitate open communication and making a safe space and making people feel that it's okay to come and talk about what's working and what's not working. Individuals need to feel safe. They need to be able to feel like they can share. They need to feel that they are accepted, that they belong, that they have purpose, that they contribute, and that they're being heard. Leaders foster team building and encourage problem solving. Management or managers, on the other hand, are also very instrumental in building connection and the ethos, logos, and pathos of the organization. Management builds that support network. They help to obtain the resources that are needed to perform the work. And overall, management helps to plan, coordinate, and evaluate all the activities that occur within that management system to maintain the quality of service that's provided. So lastly, let's talk about contribution. Contribution. This is to build and foster resilience. We need to know why we're here. What's our purpose? How do we contribute? What do we do that adds to the organization? So contribution is all about having that sense of purpose or knowing how we contribute to the mission of the organization. The sense of purpose is developed through character and through connections. Both the character of the organization, the mission, the vision, the goals, the objectives, and the values, those connections that are established with our colleagues, the relationships that we build, all help to define the individual's roles, responsibilities, and authority, and how we fit in. As managers and leaders, contribution and purpose need to be reinforced during those difficult and challenging times. We need to let individuals know they still have purpose, they're still valued as employees. Everyone needs to know that they belong, that they're contributing, and that they're appreciated for the work that they do. In all of this, we have feelings that go into the work and our organization. We have to understand our pathos, the organization's pathos, and we have to, as managers and leaders, be able to address the pathos of the organization. There are several requirements that speak to situational control. That is, for any one situation, an individual should know their roles and responsibilities and the level of authority or the level of control they have for making decisions in any particular situation. Individuals need to have a defined level of control over decisions. That's usually in their job description or in their defined levels of authority. And they need to be responsible and accountable for their actions. So we need to give individuals the tools, the information they need so they can problem solve and make well-informed decisions. We also need to communicate this information regarding situational control through the documentation of the management system. We define the organization structure, we specify roles and responsibilities, we define the level of authority for individuals, and we also define or specify the interrelationship of personnel. For emotional control or awareness, this is really trying to understand or getting a better sense of what you are feeling and why you're feeling that way. For emotional control, I cannot say that there's any one accreditation requirement that addresses emotional control and learning how to be more emotionally aware or more emotionally intelligent. That is to understand what you're feeling and why, and then to have the skills in place for how to address that. But this is addressing the pathos of the organization and how people are feeling. Each individual will need to figure out really for themselves how to develop their own emotional intelligence. There is one requirement, however, 4.1.3, that does require the laboratory to not allow undue pressure to compromise impartiality. Thus, we do have a role as managers and supervisors to be able to provide the leadership to build the community so individuals know that's a safe place to express their feelings and to voice their concerns when they are feeling undue pressure. So we can help mitigate some of the stress, some of the pressure, and some of those feelings that they might have, and then give them avenues in which they can express those feelings. We should remind individuals during times of high stress to take the time that they need for self-care. Make sure they are physically and mentally prepared to do their job. We can make suggestions for stress reduction or even have a period of mindfulness, maybe at the next management meeting. We need to let staff know that it is difficult. There are going to be challenging situations and challenging and stressful times. But you know what? We're all in this together. And it's okay to feel anxious. It's okay to feel scared or stressed. It's okay to express those feelings. But let them know there are things we can't control, and no one is to blame for that. But we still have goals to focus on. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to use those connections, maintain those connections, those relationships, and during those stressful times, increase those communications with those individuals. There are some requirements that do need to be addressed in any management system that do speak to, quote, the feelings of the organization and the organization's well-being. So we need to address complaints and feedback provided. This is really addressing the feelings of our customers, the feelings of our stakeholders, our vendors, and possibly even our employees. Additionally, if there are risks and opportunities that are identified, they will elicit feelings. Feelings of anxiety, stress, worry, frustration for the risk that might occur, and possibly excitement for the opportunity that could come about. In all of these situations, the organization and individuals will need to exhibit emotional control. And we as managers and leaders need to communicate those avenues for them to be able to help them with their emotional control. So to summarize, implementing accreditation requirements helps to build and foster resilience. The requirements really do lay the foundation for the organization's character. It helps us to establish our mission, our vision, our goals, our objectives, put in place that code of conduct, that code of ethics, to set that bar or that level of ethics or integrity that we expect. We contribute to the purpose. Individuals have their purpose. It helps lay some of the requirements so individuals know their roles, their responsibilities, where they fit within that organization, and how they contribute to the overall mission of the organization. Implementing accreditation requirements also helps foster that culture of connections and community. It helps to establish the competence of individuals that are working in the laboratory, and it builds confidence in the organization. It specifies situational control through defining roles, responsibilities, and authority, and it does help provide avenues to address emotional awareness. All of these things come together to help us build a management system of quality. So with that, that is all that I have for you for today on building and fostering resilience through accreditation. We have had a few questions come through, and we will get to those after we discuss some additional resources available for accredited laboratories or laboratories seeking accreditation. We do provide webcasts, which are free, as you know, pre-recorded 5 to 20 minutes long videos that provide additional information on accreditation and standard requirements. As well as these, there are these free monthly webinars for informational sessions on a variety of topics, so stay tuned for next month's topic. And if you didn't know, we also have an ANAB blog page, which has a wealth of information related to risks, accreditation standard requirements, and many other topics. ANAB also offers live, online, in-person, and self-paced training in many areas, including internal auditing, standard requirements, measurement confidence, and risk analysis. All of these resources can be found on the ANAB website at anab.org. Now let us get to the fun part, your questions. Okay, so I'm waiting on David. Let me know if you have any questions that have come in on your side. I have one question here. Let me start with this one. And if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put that in the Q&A panel as well. So this question says, you've mentioned two requirements that go to help establish the character for the organization, but these are focused on impartiality, primarily on impartiality. Are there any other requirements that address having a code of conduct or requiring a code of conduct? That is there a requirement for that? I'm going to say no. For ISO 17025, there is not. There are no additional requirements in 17025 that say you must have a code of conduct or a code of ethics or some type of, principles of professional practice. However, there are several requirements in Section 7 that require the organization to establish, implement, document, and maintain a management system to meet the requirements of that document and of their customers. Additionally, as an accredited organization, there may be additional accrediting body requirements that require a code of ethics or a code of conducts. For example, the AR 3125, which is for forensic laboratories, does require you to establish a code of ethics.
There's a question that's popped up. It is, you focused primarily on 17025 for resilience. Does accreditation through other standards, i.e. 17065, 17034, 17020, foster the same resilience?
Yes, they do. I gave one example where I pulled out the same requirement, or it's a similarly stated requirement for multiple 17,000 series of documents. So although I focused on 17025, if I were to go through these other 17,000 series of documents, and I did that uh, quickly, they have very similar requirements on impartiality, on confidentiality, on how to handle the items that we happen to be evaluating for our customer, having those connections and communicating with our customers, building the competence of the individuals that are working in the laboratory, and then monitoring and reviewing the processes. So those requirements are spread throughout these 17,000 series of documents because the scope of all of those documents are really the same: to look at competence, or to have the competence, have the impartiality, and have the consistency in operation. So that theme is the same throughout all of those 17,000 series of documents. So you'll see, if you go through, you can pull out similar requirements that speak to the character, the contribution, the competence, and the confidence, and then having that emotional and situational control for that organization. I'm trying to find, here's the slide. So this is the one slide that I showed all of the different 17,000 series of standards that have very similar requirements. And this was just scanning through a few of them that I had available.
There is a comment from one of our attendees that impartiality needs a committee in the organization, which is different from some of the other standards.
Yes. I'm not sure what standard you received that from, um, but impartiality is for everybody in the organization. And I don't know, in 17025, I don't think it, quote, requires a committee, but impartiality, there has to be a commitment from management to impartiality, and how they go about showing or demonstrating that commitment uh, is up to the organization to determine that. Yeah.
They're specifically referencing 17024 for credentialing. The
Ah,
comment states that the credentialing body or organization needs to be independent and impartial from the group that they are providing credentials for.
yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you for that information. Good to know.
There's also a question here that they want to know if could this presentation be sent to the emails of the attendees.
We don't do that as common practice, but what we do is, since we're recording this, we will post the recording of this on our website, and it will be there and available for you to review.
That appears to be the end of the questions and comments on this end.
All right, and I'm not seeing any additional questions or comments come in through the chat or the Q&A panel. So I want to thank everyone for their participation and their time. If you need additional contact information, that is provided here. So you can reach out to training@anab.org, or if you need additional information on accreditation services, don't hesitate to reach out to ANAB@anab.org. So thank you everyone for your time and your participation today, and I look forward to seeing you or hearing from you at our next monthly webinar.